What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel. Yes, I am wearing the same thing as yesterday. I recorded these yesterday, uploading them for all you fine people today because I'm on a plane currently. But we are back with more Week 7 preview and predictions. And let's go through some more upset potential games, shall we? There are a ton of them this week. I want to tell you about 3 more today. And possibly none bigger than this one right here. The Iowa State Cyclones, undefeated near the top 10 in the AP poll. They're going to go on the road and take on the West Virginia Mountaineers. And we'll tell you everything you need to know about Cyclones and Mountaineers here in just a little bit from Morgantown, West Virginia. But before we dive on into talking about this game, I just want to say thank you for all your love and support that you have shown me either on YouTube or otherwise, and I really do appreciate it. If you want to help support me on YouTube and you're as big of a college football nerd as I am, and you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, then what are you doing? Make sure you subscribe, ring the bell, and thank you for taking time out of your day to watch this video. You can also like, comment, share, and anything else you do helps support what I do here on YouTube. But I also would like to say, if you want to see what else I do in the sports media realm, go give me a follow on Twitter or X, whatever you prefer to call it. It's at TailgateNate29. I would really appreciate a follow over there as I post about everything else I do within the sports media realm. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Cyclones, I give you the Mountaineers, and what should be, honestly, a really, really fun one from Morgantown, West Virginia. Hey, how do we do preview predictions around here? Glad you asked. We're going to take a deep dive into the game and sort of talk about some keys when each team possesses the football. So we will first go through what happens when the Cyclone offense is on against the Mountaineer defense, and then we will flip it. We'll talk about the Mountaineer offense and versus the Cyclone defense. We'll go through sort of my final thoughts and how I expect this game to play out. And then at the end of the video, obviously, well, that'll be at the end as well. But then we'll give you my score prediction for who walks away with a win in Morgantown. Make sense? Love to hear it. Let's dive on in to talking about this one. So I do want to start out with this one by saying the fact that, look, Iowa State has been playing some really good football lately. West Virginia didn't start out the season too great, got manhandled by Penn State, lost one to Pitt. We know what Pitt has done this year, so that doesn't look like a bad loss. But West Virginia has slowly sort of built their momentum up here, right? A comeback win against Kansas, and then you absolutely go on the road and dominate the Oklahoma State Cowboys. And most importantly, you were able to limit what Ollie Gordon did in that game. That's been a common theme when teams have played Oklahoma State this year. Ollie Gordon hasn't really done much for the most part, but West Virginia is starting to build momentum, and it's what makes this one so compelling and interesting. Now, this is an Iowa State offense that is not going to absolutely light up the scoreboard by any means. I know they did it against Baylor. I know they did it against Arkansas State. I'm going to throw that Arkansas State game out, though. That game against Baylor, definitely one of their most impressive offensive performance, if not the most impressive offensive performance they have had so far this season. 542 yards in that game, and very balanced attack. 277 passing and 265 on the ground. And most importantly, they dominated time of possession in that game there as well. That's kind of what Iowa State's name of the game is, right? But, I mean, you go ahead and you take a look at the stats here. I mean, yes, Rocco Beck does have a 75-yard touchdown pass. Yes, Jalen Jackson has a 51-yard run. Yes, Abu Sama has a 77-yard run. The explosive plays are kind of few and far between when you talk about this Cyclone offense. It's a team that loves to just move the chains. It's converting 45% of its third down opportunities. The offense does move the ball really, really well and really, really efficiently. Again, the yards per play number is up there for sure, but again, something above 7 denotes an offense that, wow, you could see a lot of explosive plays here. Now, 6.7 is good, but Becht in this pass game loved to move the chains. In fact, I think I saw something the other day that Rocco Becht, when targeting one of his wide receivers, I want to say it was that of Jaden Higgins. It definitely could have been that of Jalen Noel as well. I want to say, though, it was Higgins. When he targets Higgins on a pass that goes 0 to 20 yards, that's 88% completion percentage. He's completing 88% of those throws, and the number is probably pretty similar when you flip-flop which wide receiver that stat is not referring to, right? But the pass game works, the run game works. This is an offense that can move the ball any way you ask it to. Now, that's going to be a big key for this Mountaineer defensive front, because if you are West Virginia, I think controlling the pace is going to be important here. You're going to want to take the ball out of Iowa State's hands as much as possible. And by doing that, you got to control the pace. And how do you control the pace? Well, most effectively, you win the battle in the trenches. I think the big key to watch when the Cyclone offense and the Mountaineer defense is on the field, you got to look at this Mountaineers defensive front. It is only allowing 130 yards per game so far this season. And while that number is not primarily fantastic, I mean, again, they limited Ollie Gordon to just 50 yards last week against Oklahoma State. You go back a couple of weeks, was it last? Yes, it was last week against Oklahoma State. You go back a couple of weeks, and I mean, Devin Neal did have himself a pretty good day for yards per carry, and Kansas as a whole was rushing it really, really well. You go back to the game against Pitt. Pitt only rushed for 2.7 yards per carry. Okay, there you go. You won the ground game in that one. A little bit different when you're talking about Penn State. Penn State ran all over West Virginia, literally and figuratively. But this is the defensive front that also has been able to get into the backfield and generate some sacks and some tackles for loss. 11 sacks on the year. I think the tackle for loss number is around the 15 to 18 range there. But this is the Mountaineer defensive front that I think is going to have a pretty interesting battle against this by committee backfield. You heard me mention a couple of names there for Iowa State that can run the football, that of Jalen Jackson, that of Abu Sama, but I also didn't mention Carson Hansen. All of those guys have at least 40 carries, and all of them have at least 5 yards per carry so far this season. That is going to be the big key factor to watch, because if that by committee run game is going to be slowed down, I mean, Iowa State and Rocco Becht has 3 targets to throw to, and that of Noel Higgins and the tight end in Ben Bramer, who only has 7 catches so far this season. But when he does catch the ball, he's made, I think, 1 or 2 really phenomenal catches within those 7 so far this season. Of course, that's going to spell trouble for West Virginia if this by committee backfield is able to get going. So if you're West Virginia, again, watch that lineup. But to go back to what I said a little bit earlier, right? Create havoc in that backfield. Not only get sacks, not only be able to get Rocco Becht on the ground and contain him, limit to what this short pass game is able to do, and don't let this Iowa State offense sort of extend the play on you, because that's only going to help them control the pace of the game and only help them control what they want to do. But West Virginia's got to win that third down battle. I think they have to create some havoc in the backfield, limit what that running back committee is going to be able to do, and even get some pressure on Rocco Becht there as well. As Iowa State's offense been pretty solid, been pretty consistent throughout the most part this season. When you take a look at the West Virginia offense against this Cyclone defense, well, I mean, hey, West Virginia's got a lot of ball players too. And look, it didn't start out too well. The Penn State game, you went up against a really good defense. You just couldn't get a whole lot going. There was a ton of rain. That Penn State game was definitely weird in a lot of aspects, and even losing that game to Pitt at the time didn't necessarily look the best, but we also didn't really know what Pitt was at that time. We found out after that game, and now later on, as Pitt and Cal is one of the games I'm going to preview later. Yeah, Pitt's a pretty solid team. Garrett Green did not perform well in either of those 2 games I just mentioned, but helped lead that comeback effort there against Kansas. 295 yards, 2 touchdowns. Even though he did throw 2 picks in that game, he also threw 2 picks against Pitt, and I think he even threw 1, maybe 2. Oh no, he actually didn't throw any against Penn State. That was the backup there. And Nico Marchol, I'm probably mispronouncing that name horribly, but I think for West Virginia, much like what Iowa State's going to want to do and try to establish that ground game, West Virginia is going to want to try to do the exact same thing, because that is the bulk of their offense. Garrett Green is someone that can get outside of the pocket and run really, really well. But when you also take a look at other guys within this backfield, I mean, C.J. Donaldson has been fantastic so far this season. Jaheim White, even though he hasn't gotten the amount of carries, you could argue he's been better, is right there in terms of total yards with C.J. Donaldson, just 9 behind, and is averaging more than a yard, I'd say a yard more per carry than what C.J. Donaldson is. And again, Donaldson, White, Green, there's your sort of running back by committee there as well. All of those guys have at least 50 attempts on the season. Iowa State, all of them had at least 40. West Virginia, they all have at least 50. A run-first offense, but you can't discount Garrett Green and this passing ability, because it still can be dangerous. Clement, Ray, Taylor, Gallagher all have over 100 yards receiving this season for West Virginia, and they all are threats in their own ways. In fact, Ray is someone that can get downfield. He has a 52-yard catch this season. The Cyclones, though, they have to contain the dual threat ability of Garrett Green. If they don't do that, again, the rush defense, you look, that secondary has been phenomenal for the Iowa State Cyclones so far. But, I mean, you take a look at who they've played. I mean, Baylor, Houston, Arkansas State, Iowa, and North Dakota. That's working backwards through their schedule. There isn't really someone there that has the ability to throw the football, I think, as well as what Baylor has, because as well as what West Virginia and Garrett Green has, right? So that passing yards per game number maybe a little bit deflated. They have gone on, or I say they've played a lot of teams in which their main focus is to also run the ball, much like what Iowa State would like to do. West Virginia is going to be no different, but I think their pass game is a little bit better than, say, Iowa or Baylor's or Houston's. Their pass game has a little bit more life, and I think can be a little bit more dangerous. But you also have to account for the ability of Green to run the football. I think that's going to be priority number one for Iowa State, and being able to slow down this run game as a whole, not only just Garrett Green, but also Donaldson and White. But if you can limit Green's ability to get outside of the pocket, to extend plays, and to take off, you're able to get pressure. It's a team that's forced 9 sacks and 11 turnovers so far this season. Iowa State can absolutely do it. They are going to have to do it here in this game. But West Virginia can't get caught beating themselves. Again, you just heard me mention Garrett Green. 2 picks in that game that they lost against Pitt. 2 picks in that game against Oklahoma State this past week. Is that what I had said there as well? No, not the Oklahoma State game. I think it was 2 picks against Kansas. Yes, 2 picks against Kansas, a game that they won, albeit they had to come back to do it, and 2 picks against Pitt there as well. That's something that just can't happen. They have 8 turnovers this season. They have 11 sacks allowed, and Iowa State is not a team that beats themselves. They do a really good job at limiting sacks. They do a really good job at holding on to the football. They do a good job at just setting the tempo and the pace of the game and controlling that clock. They also don't get penalized a whole lot. West Virginia can't beat themselves, because if they do, Iowa State is just simply not going to. And it's something that you can't even count on, because, again, it's just something you can't predict. For my prediction here in this game, both teams sit at 2-0. So this is for one of the coveted top spots in the Big 12 Conference. Iowa State is the slight favorite here. They are 5-0. They've looked really impressive so far. But, man, I'm going to go ahead and ride with Country Roads taking me home. I think that the Country Roads are going to take West Virginia home to a win in this game. I think Garrett Green is starting to play really, really well. I don't think Iowa State is going to beat themselves here. This is really going to have to be a performance where West Virginia simply has to go outclass the Iowa State Cyclones. I think overall, the run game is going to be a little bit better. I think they're going to be able to get the pressure home. I think that home crowd environment is going to be enough to get it done. Iowa State still has got some holes, and this may very well, maybe besides the Iowa Hawkeyes, be their biggest test so far this season, and I think they fail it. I think Iowa State comes up with their first loss of the season. I think West Virginia pulls off the upset. Again, I'm going to ride the Country Roads here in this one. Matt Campbell's got a real squad this year, and Iowa State can still push for a Big 12 championship, but I like the Mountaineers in this contest. I think it's a pretty favorable matchup for them, and I think they get this one done. 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time game on Fox. Let me know what you guys think about this one in the comment section down below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.